All right. Hello, everyone. I am now live, and today's the day. We are covering the final chapter of our compendium. It's been a long month, live streaming pretty much every day, covering a chapter a day of our compendium. And our compendium is our free online resource library of primary source documents and events on this interactive timeline. And so I'm going to be showing you what chapter 26 is about. It's actually the chapter that we are currently living through right now. And so this chapter is the third chapter of the modern era, and this is called Crisis of Populism. I came up with that. And it covers the time period from 2017 till today. And so this chapter is divided into three sections. The first section, Make America Great Again, 2017 to 2021, this covers Trump's first term as president. And then you have Build Back Better, 2021 to 2025. This is the Biden administration. And then we have the third section called America First, 2025 till today. And this is the current Trump term administration that we're currently living in. And most of it is empty, as you can see, because it hasn't happened yet. So this is the future. So this is kind of eerie looking at a timeline and seeing the future in the timeline. And so I'm going to go through each of these sections and show you what we have on our website for this time period, for this chapter of American history that we're living through. So let's go to the first chapter, or the first section of this chapter, Make America Great Again, 2017 to 2021. So Trump's first term marked a sharp rupture of the post-Cold War political norms, as his administration pursued an America First agenda that emphasized economic nationalism, deregulation, restrictive immigration policy, and a confrontational style toward both domestic opponents and traditional allies. Domestically, Trump enacted major tax cuts, rolled back environmental and regulatory frameworks, reshaped the federal judiciary, and governed through direct appeals to his political base, intensifying partisan polarization. In foreign policy, he withdrew from multilateral agreements, pressured NATO allies, renegotiated trade deals, engaged in high profile diplomacy with North Korea, and escalated rivalry with China. The COVID 19 pandemic dominated the final year of his presidency, triggering mass casualties, economic shutdowns, and contentious debates over federal authority, public health, and executive leadership. The term culminated in the disputed 2020 election and the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, an unprecedented challenge to the peaceful transfer of power that underscored the fragility of democratic institutions in a deeply divided nation. Ooh, sounds exciting. So, very first thing that we have in this section is Trump's inaugural address. What I like about this timeline format is we can embed video straight to the timeline. So if you want to watch Trump's inaugural address, you can directly from the timeline. I have this for all the presidents. I have all the inaugural addresses. So like when I talk about the next section, I'm going to show Biden's inaugural address as well. And so having a whole timeline of these presidents is very helpful when trying to understand like what happened during these administrations. And I have this for all the presidents, all the way back to Washington. Of course, we don't have video of Washington giving his inaugural address, but we do have a video of us narrating the speech that he gave, his inaugural address. And so that's Trump's first inaugural address. And he, within the first week, will pass his first Muslim ban. And this will be an ongoing challenge back and forth between the Trump administration and the courts all throughout his first term. And the Muslim bans will be challenged by the Supreme Court and lower courts. and then you would have to have multiple other bans in order to work around those challenges. So the Muslim bans was a pretty big thing, and I remember that in his first term, which was just began just 8 years ago. Let's see. Yeah, first Muslim ban. Federal court blocks the Muslim ban, as I talked about the federal courts. Trump's 2017 State of the Union address. A lot of presidents who would give their first State of the Union address to Congress early in their term usually take the time to talk about their platform and the kinds of policies that they want. So it's more detailed than an inaugural address, but it's still very early on in the Trump administration. I mean, this is only 1 month and a week into his administration. You have the second Muslim ban, so now Trump is going around the federal court blocks, and then the lower courts will block the second ban. Gorsuch becomes a justice of the Supreme Court. This was very contentious with the Obama administration after the death of Antonin Scalia. Obama nominated Harlan to the Supreme Court, but the Republican Senate, under the leadership of Mitch McConnell, refused to have a vote on certifying the nomination. And so Obama was never able to put in a justice of the Supreme Court in his final year. And at the beginning of Trump's term, Trump will be given the opportunity to add Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. So that's this guy right here. Have a Supreme Court decision, Impression Products v. Lexmark. And I have a bunch of videos from Mr. Beat, not Mr. Beast, Mr. Beat, that I've embedded into the timeline with his permission, of course. And so if you want to watch his Supreme Court briefs, you can. And I totally encourage you guys to check out his channel. And if you like the content that he makes, subscribe. If the Supreme Court allows narrowed version of the Muslim ban. We have the Unite the Right rally night, where white nationalist and far-right demonstrators gathered for a torchlit march through the campus of the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, staging a highly symbolic display the evening before the planned Unite the Right rally. Marchers, many carrying tiki torches and chanting slogans associated with white supremacist ideology, assembled around a statue of Thomas Jefferson, the university's founder, presenting themselves as defenders of a particular vision of American identity. They were met by students and counter-protesters, and tensions escalated into physical clashes, marking an early flashpoint in the violence that would intensify the following day. So you have the Unite the Rally Day, which was August 12th, 2017, where in Charlottesville was organized by white nationalists and far-right groups protesting the planned removal of a statue of Robert E. Lee, which they framed as a broader attack on their interpretation of American heritage. Participants included a coalition of white supremacists, neo-Nazis, Ku Klux Klan members, and other extremist activists who were met by large numbers of counter-protesters composed of local residents, clergy, and anti-racist organizations. The confrontation turned deadly when a white supremacist, James Alex Fields Jr., drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters, killing Heather Heyer and injuring dozens. So, I mean, it just sickens me to see. I'm very much someone who believes in America and American nationalism. This is not American nationalism. You have Nazism, which we fought, in case you guys didn't study World War II, and then Confederates who tried to break up our Union and replace our Constitution with their own Constitution. They're also not pro-America, so I don't view these guys. You do have the Gadsden flag, which, okay, that is a pro-American flag, but all this other stuff is not pro-American. So I don't know why. I don't really think that we should consider these guys nationalists, because they don't actually believe in the nation of America, but whatever. You have the third Muslim ban, which was implemented on September 24th, 2017. And then that Muslim ban was blocked. So this constant struggle between the courts and the Trump administration. And then there is the refugee ban. So it's different from the Muslim ban. It's now a refugee ban. And the Supreme Court temporarily allows for the third Muslim ban. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. I'm gonna have to double check this, but I think this is still the same tax code that we currently have. The Biden administration kept the Trump tax cuts. So I'm gonna have to double check that. You have the refugee ban temporarily blocked by lower courts. You have Trump's 2018 State of the Union address. And again, we have these videos embedded, so if you want to watch them, you can directly from the timeline. The Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2017. Oh, you have Trump v. Hawaii. So again, this is the arguments when it comes to immigration, and so the travel ban will be challenged in a court in Hawaii. So these are the oral arguments of that court in the Supreme Court. You have Murphy v. NCAA, another Supreme Court decision. Masterpiece Cake Shop v. Colorado. I remember that. A cake shop did not want to make a cake for a gay wedding, and so that led to a lawsuit, and that lawsuit went up to the Supreme Court. And again, I have a Mr. Beat video of this Supreme Court decision. We have Trump v. Hawaii. This is the Supreme Court decision. Trump-Putin summit in Helsinki. So Kavanaugh becomes Justice of the Supreme Court. And I will be adding in the future the, what's it called? Nomination hearings. I think that's what they're called. Of all of the justices of the Supreme Court. The videos of them. Because I remember I was in high school when this happened. And I remember watching this. I think it was like my sophomore year. Let's see, First Step Act has to do with rehabilitation of criminals. You have Trump's 2019 State of the Union address. You have Biden announces his 2020 presidential run on May 18th, 2019. Trump announces the death of al-Baghdadi. You know, House impeaches Trump for the first time for abuse of power. Trump adds 6 countries to the Muslim ban. I'll be adding more descriptions to all this stuff. Hey, Trump's 2020 State of the Union address. He is acquitted on February 5th, 2020, of his first impeachment. The second impeachment will come after the Jan 6 riot. You have the U.S. Taliban peace deal. And so we made peace with the Taliban in 2020. And then later in, I think, 2021 or 2022 was when we left Afghanistan. And that was a whole debacle that Biden found himself in. Even though the actual peace agreement was signed in during the Trump term. Ah, yes, March 15th, 2020. States begin to implement shutdowns in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. That was my freshman year in college, spring semester. I remember this very clearly. I was in New York City, so the lockdown shut down that city. I left that city, went back home to Georgia. And Georgia never really had any lockdowns, not really. Maybe in Atlanta, but for most of Georgia, there were no lockdowns. Most people didn't even wear masks. You had the CARES Act, Bostock v. Clayton County. Another Supreme Court decision. You have McGirt v. Oklahoma. This basically says that half of Oklahoma belongs to Native Americans, a Native reservation. So Oklahoma is pretty much just this half. If Abraham Accords, that was between Israel and several Muslim countries. I think Saudi Arabia is one of them. And then, we have the Trump debates, Trump versus Biden debates. These were fun to listen to. This was 6 years ago. Wow. Second debate. Barrett becomes Justice of the Supreme Court. That's her. So that's Gorsuch and that's Kavanaugh. So these three justices were added by Trump. The election of Biden. Biden wins against Trump. Biden's victory speech. Then you have the Jan 6 riot. And Trump's Jan 6 rally speech. This happened in the morning at 11:15, or basically noontime. This was at the White House while the riot was happening at the Capitol. And then at 4:17, Trump posts this video of him telling the rioters to go home. And Pence at 8:06 p.m. on January 6th makes remarks after the Jan 6 riot. And I'll be adding more videos of this day. Not just the riot itself, but the actual procedures going on in Congress when it comes to certifying the Electoral College votes, which is very interesting. The actual politics of Jan 6, to me, is much more interesting than the actual riot itself. And so I'll be adding more information about what the Republicans were trying to do. And I will have more information, like with the Jan 6 hearings, but I want to add more primary sources that happen on this day. Let's see, the election results are certified at 3:32 a.m. on January 7th. You know, Trump's statement that morning, or I guess that the next day, the evening the next day, on the Capitol riot. House impeaches Trump for a second time for inciting insurrection, referring to the Jan 6 riots. And then you have Trump's farewell address. And so this is what we have so far for first section on Make America Great Again. Now let's go to the next section, Build Back Better. So this is going to be the Biden administration. So Biden's presidency opened amid a crisis as his administration sought to restore institutional stability after Jan 6, oversee mass vaccination, and reassert democratic norms through congressional investigations that framed the insurrection as a defining test of constitutional government. Domestically, Biden pursued expansive federal action to address the pandemic's economic fallout, infrastructure decay, and climate change, but rising inflation, supply chain disruptions, and persistent cultural polarization eroded public confidence. In foreign affairs, the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan marked a definitive end to the post-9/11 war era, the war on terror, even as Russia's invasion of Ukraine recentered U.S. leadership in NATO and revived great power rivalry. The Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson overturned Roe v. Wade, reshaping American politics. By returning abortion policy to the states and intensifying debates over rights, federalism, and the judiciary, framing his presidency as a battle for the soul of the nation. Biden presided over an era defined by democratic anxiety and partisan realignment, culminating in Donald Trump's political comeback in the 2024 election and signaling a volatile new phase in American political life. So we have Biden's inaugural address that you guys can watch. Let's see. Biden repeals the Muslim and refugee bans on the first day, and a bunch of other executive orders on the first day. Trump acquitted for his second impeachment. You have the American Rescue Plan, which is to deal with the pandemic. Biden's 2021 State of the Union address. Have the preliminary hearing on Jan 6. I need to refine the image of this, but you have a suicide bombing at Hamid Karzai International Airport. A suicide bombing occurred at the airport in Afghanistan, killing 11 Marines, 1 Army paratrooper, 1 Navy corpsman, and 170 Afghan citizens. And so this is during the withdrawal out of Afghanistan. I remember watching this. You have the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This is to try and revitalize the economy after the COVID-19 lockdowns. You have a whole women's health versus Jackson about the abortion. Russia invades Ukraine, starting a war, February 24th, 2022. You have Biden's 2022 State of the Union address. Yeah, the first Jan 6 hearing. And the Jan 6 hearings do a decent job when it comes to presenting a lot of the evidence of what happened on January 6th, both the riot side of that day and also the political shenanigans that was going on in the Congress during the certification of the Electoral College votes. And so I've added all of the Jan 6 hearings, if you want to watch them. Each one's pretty long, a couple hours long. And so they have testimony, they have evidence, and whatnot. I'm still surprised that nothing came from the actual hearings themselves. I guess that's just how it is. The New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin, a Second Amendment case. Fifth, I have Doms v. Jackson, a pivotal case that challenged the legal precedent established in Roe v. Wade on the complexities surrounding abortion rights in the United States, focusing on the Mississippi law that banned abortions after 15 weeks. And this will send abortion issues back to the states, which is where I think abortion belongs. I don't think abortion, at least right now, under the current constitution, belongs in the federal. I think a lot of things don't belong in the federal government, just from a constitutional framework. So I do agree with the outcome of this case, that it should be up to the states to decide, not the federal government, to either ban or protect abortion. You have Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. You have the 6th Jan 6 hearing. Jackson, that's this lady right here. Jackson becomes a justice of the Supreme Court. And it's during... I gotta find the video for this, because during the acceptance of Jackson, Biden was giving a speech, and in the speech he goes, "America can be defined in one word. How would you?" And he's like mumbles some incoherent nonsense. And so I want to find the full video of that and add it to the timeline. I just think that's funny. You have West Virginia versus the EPA. Federal government dramatically changing its climate change policy. So you have the Supreme Court voting against a lot of the regulatory powers of the EPA. You have the 7th Jan 6 hearing. 8th Jan 6 hearing. There was 10 of them. You have the CHIPS Act, which I was more hopeful for the CHIPS Act actually doing something. Um, and now, like, what? I guess I don't know if the current AI infrastructure was established by the CHIPS Act. Like all the data centers and uh, manufacturing of electronic components. I'm not sure how much the CHIPS Act has actually done when it comes to what we're currently experiencing with the proliferation of AI. Let's see, you have Inflation Reduction Act to deal with inflation because, excuse me, inflation did reach an all-time high in then like the past, I don't know, 50, 60 years during the Biden administration. I think it went up to 9 or 12%, which is pretty high for the United States. Usually we have an inflation of 2%. That's the stated goal of the Federal Reserve, is to maintain that 2% inflation year over year. And so having a 9 to 12% inflation is pretty high for the United States. And then you have this famous battle, the speech by Biden, the battle for the soul of the nation. I remember a lot of conservative types were freaking out about the red lighting in the background. Like, no, if you zoom out, it's red, white, and blue. Red in the middle, white in between, and then blue at the ends. And so it's just red, white, and blue. And the building in the background, that is Independence Hall in Philadelphia. And so I think that's a really cool building to give a speech at. I love Independence Hall. That's one of my favorite buildings in America. That's where the Constitution was made, and it's also where the Declaration of Independence was made. So there's that. Say the Battle for the Soul of the Nation speech. If you want to watch it, you can. I have the full speech here. Let's see, we have the 9th Jan 6 hearing, and then the 10th one, the final one. We have the final reports on Jan 6 hearings. So this is the actual written report published by the government, by Congress. And so if you're interested in reading it, you can just click on the link here, and it will take you to the Gov report. Might take a little while to load. The Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2022, and then you have Biden's 2023 State of the Union address. Hamas attacks Israel, starting a war. So this is the current Israel-Palestine conflict, at least the current iteration of it, begins on October 7th, 2023. At Biden's 2024 State of the Union address, Trump is convicted on 34 counts in New York City. I remember hearing about this. I was at Chipotle when I heard the news about this. Let's see. You have Trump versus Biden first 2024 debate. And then this happened very early in the year. Usually the presidential debates do not happen this early. And I think the reason why it happened this early was to see how well Biden would do. And if he didn't do well, which he did not do well in this in this debate, and so they would have enough time to find a replacement, which would be Kamala Harris, his VP. Grants Pass v. Johnson, a Supreme Court decision regarding homelessness. You have Trump v. United States. You have Trump, he gets shot at a rally on July 13th, 2024. And so I have the full rally. And then we get to the part where, let's see, he gets shot right there. So I have the entire rally speech, if you want to listen to what he was talking about. It's just the usual Trump um, speeches talking about the economy and immigration, um, and stuff like that right before he got shot. Of course, he survives, and he will speak just a few days later, 5 days later, at the 2024 RNC. So I have that speech here. We have Biden's address stating that he is dropping out of the race. And then Biden will give a speech at the 2024 DNC in August of that year. Then we have Harris's DNC acceptance speech. And now we have the first Trump-Harris presidential debate. So the first presidential debate in 2024 was Trump-Biden, and now it's Trump-Harris. J.D. Vance versus Walz VP debate. There's one of the few times that Biden spoke to the press during his administration. I'm only including this. It's towards the end of his administration, and he gives an overview of a bunch of other issues like the Israel conflict, Trump's running for office, and the economy. Trump will return to Butler, PA on October 6th to give a speech. That's the same place that he got shot at. We have Trump's remarks on the October 7th remembrance. Oh, yeah. Trump works at McDonald's. I have this the video that he made where he goes to McDonald's. Part of his campaign, I guess. And then I think it was either the same day or like the day before. He drove a garbage truck or something like that. Let's see if this video can load. Guess not. We have Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden during his campaign. We have Harris's speech on the ellipse. That's the ellipse of the White House. So if you want to listen to this speech, you can directly from the timeline. And then we have the election. Let's see, the election of Trump. I have the video by Mr. Beat on that. We have Trump's victory speech and Harris's concession speech, which happened. I think that happened the next morning, so I'll have to change that. Let's see. Oops. Biden's remarks on the 2024 election. Recognizes that Trump won the election. And then we have Biden's farewell address. So you can watch this on our timeline. Now let me go to the third and final section of this chapter, which is the section that we currently live in. And so let's see. Trump's 2025. Trump's second term opened with an aggressive assertion of executive power as tariffs were once again wielded as explicit political tools to pressure allies and rivals alike in trade, security, and diplomatic negotiations. Domestically, the administration pursued a hardline immigration agenda centered on halting illegal entry and accelerating mass deportations, intensifying legal battles with states, courts, and civil rights groups while reshaping federal enforcement priorities. Political polarization deepened as acts of domestic violence escalated, most notably marked by the shooting of a prominent political pundit at a live public event, reinforcing fears of a fraying civic order. In foreign affairs, Trump failed to deliver rapid resolutions to the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, while instability spread elsewhere, with new or renewed conflicts emerging in regions beyond the traditional centers of U.S. focus. By the end of 2025, the administration was defined less by achieved settlement than by confrontation, at home and abroad, as the nation entered another uncertain phase with the trajectory of the term still unresolved. They have Trump's second inaugural address, which he gave inside because of inclement weather, and you can watch this speech that he gives directly on our timeline. You have an executive order for protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, where he will speak out against the idea of birthright citizenship. And you have Trump's remarks on to the World Economic Forum, one of his first addresses that he gives as in the second term as president. VP Vance's remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Trump's speech at CPAC 2025. Trump meets with Zelensky. This is the first meeting with Zelensky. You have Trump's 2025 address to Congress. This is his State of the Union address, his first one. Vice President Vance's remarks to the American Dynamism Summit. Cory Booker's filibuster. I couldn't embed the video because it's over 24 hours long. And if I embed the video, nothing else loads on this timeline. And so I just have a link to the government site with the filibuster if you want to watch for 24 hours, over 24 hours, Cory Booker's filibuster, the longest filibuster in U.S. history. Although it's not a usual filibuster because there was no bill being passed through that Cory Booker was stopping. He was just stopping regular day-to-day proceedings. Usually a filibuster happens when a bill that a senator does not like is going through, and so that senator will spend as much time as he can speaking to prevent the vote of that bill. And so if we're going to define filibuster as a filibuster against a particular specific bill, then this filibuster is not a filibuster, and the 1957 Strom-Thurmond filibuster is still the longest filibuster in American history. And that filibuster was to specifically stop the passage of the 1957 Civil Rights Act, which was signed by Eisenhower during the Little Rock 9 incident. You have Trump's Liberation Day speech and tariffs on April 2nd, 2025. Trump will give an address on his 100 days of his second term. Trump's address on bombing Iran. So this is, what's the name of that operation? Midnight Hammer or something like that? Or Ultimate Fury or something like that? Midnight Fury, maybe? I'll have to look up the name of the operation. But this is the first time that the United States bombs Iran during Trump's second term. You know, Trump signs the Big Beautiful Bill on July 4th, 2025. You have Trump-Putin summit in August. Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck and killed at an American Comeback Tour event. He was a founder of Turning Point USA, a political commentator, and helped convince many young voters to elect Donald Trump, especially for his re-election. The 43-day-long government shutdown. This is one of the longest shutdowns in government shutdowns in U.S. history. And during the shutdown, Trump will give an address to the Israeli Knesset. The Knesset is just the real Israeli Congress. You have Epstein Files Transparency Act to open up the files to the public and to Congress. You have Trump's address on the capture of Maduro. So Maduro was the president of Venezuela and was captured by U.S. forces. He is to be tried in American courts on counts of narco-terrorism. Learning Resources Inc. versus Trump. The court held that the IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs, So the IEEPA was passed, I want to say, during the Truman administration, in order to give the president power over trade during national crises, especially conflicts with other countries. And so Trump will say that this act, I'm pretty sure it was passed in the Truman administration. I could be wrong about that. It might be the Carter administration. But Trump will argue that this act gives the president himself the power to impose tariffs. And so this is what he's going to use, at least tried to use, to justify the tariffs the court held against him. So the court voted against Trump. Have Trump's 2026 State of the Union address, Trump's address on striking Iran. So this is the second time that we struck Iran, and we're still going through right now. I mean, it's been months, and we're still having to deal with all that fighting, all that conflict with Iran. It's still going on today, and we are at the end of July. You have the Artemis 2 mission, which is really cool. I love science stuff. So a crewed lunar flyby mission. It was the first crewed flight of NASA-led Artemis program, and the first crewed flight beyond low Earth orbit since Apollo 17 in 1972. Artemis 2 was the second flight of the Space Launch System, and the first crewed flight of the Orion spacecraft, named Integrity, by the 4-person crew. The crew included Koch, Glover, Hansen, and Wiseman. We have Charles III. He will give an address to Congress. What's funny about this speech is Charles III is a king, an actual king, a true, full, legitimate king of England. And on the same day, you had, and I'm going to be adding it to the timeline, you have the second No Kings rally. But the No Kings rally wasn't about Charles III. It was about Trump, who isn't a king. So these people who are, protesting No Kings, talking about Trump, are at the same time celebrating an actual literal king going to Congress and making a speech, and he received many applauses by both sides during this speech. Like, what a world we live in. There's no consistency at all in our world. It's completely absurd. I gotta change the image for this one. You have the 25th anniversary of independence. America celebrates the 250th anniversary since the Declaration of Independence from Great Britain, which is also kind of funny that we had Charles III speak for our 250th anniversary a couple months before. And so, let's see, you have Trump's address on the midterm election. And a lot of people are very concerned about that, and also for Trump's speech at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. For the midterm, a lot of people are afraid that the Trump administration is going to use military force at the voting booths, the ballots for the midterm election that's going to be coming up in November. And then you have Trump. He says something really stupid towards the end of his speech where he talks about running for a third term, or I guess to him, running for a fourth term, really a third term, because he didn't win the 2020 election. And it's like just completely unnecessary and completely inappropriate. If he is joking, which, I mean, it would make sense because it's the Correspondents' Dinner, and Correspondents' Dinner, the press correspondence, is all about free speech, and so it would make sense for him to tell jokes. But at the same time, it's like, come on, really? And this is pretty recent. This was just a couple of, let's see, a week ago? Not even? Yeah, a week ago. Yeah, exactly a week ago. So this is the most recent document that I have on the timeline is the speech that he gives, and the most recent event as well. And so, if any of you guys know of any other primary sources or events that you think I should add that I haven't already added, just let me know. I mean, we're done with this live stream series. Um, it's been a very long month for me, doing a live stream pretty much every single day, and it's been great. I've been able to show you guys everything that I've added to the compendium so far. But it's been long, and I'm going to do it completely different next year. Instead of doing one live stream a day, I'm going to spend a month to cover just one era of history. So January, I'll cover the colonial era, and I'll have live streams throughout the month. And then February will be the revolutionary era, and I'll have live streams throughout the month, covering the revolutionary era. So I'm not going to do 1 month covering everything. I'm going to do 9 months, each month covering a different era, until we have 9 eras on the compendium. And so, yeah, it's been one heck of a month. And for those of you who don't know, what I've been showing you this entire month is our resource that we have on our website. We are an educational nonprofit, and so this is the free resource that we provide, and it is called the Compendium. It is an online repository or library of primary source documents in the format of this interactive timeline that people can go through and find primary source documents like presidential addresses and speeches and whatnot. And if you're having trouble navigating the timeline, you can just scroll down to the master index, and I have all the documents in this section where you can filter out search results and hopefully be able to find what you're looking for if we have it. There are many documents that we don't have that I'm working on adding. And so, again, if you find a document that you know about that we don't have, let me know. And yeah, we are an educational nonprofit, a 501c3. All donations are tax deductible, and it goes to helping us do this research, putting together this program, this compendium, and keeping it free without any advertisements, no special library access, no paywall, keeping it absolutely free and open, and free of ads. So if you want to help us keep this program up, please consider donating today. And so, yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me this month, if you were. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'll be happy to answer it. And check out our website, check out this program. I hope you learned something new of our old history, and I also hope that you have a nice rest of your day. Bye-bye.